All right. It looks like we do have enough people for quorum. Alder Miadzi isn't joining us, but we haven't heard anything from Mr. Fletcher, so we can give him another couple minutes. While Mr. Fletcher is getting logged in, Ms. Hark, are there any notified absences?
Alder Miadzi.
Let's see. Joe, can you tell us how this works, please?
Sure. Welcome to our virtual meeting. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. Members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. All panelists have the ability to mute and unmute themselves. Please continue to use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak, ask questions, or request a roll call vote. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak. The name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. City staff will tell you when your time is up. After speaking, a member of the ALRC may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the ALRC, please send it to the email listed on today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. All right, I call this meeting of the ALRC to order at 5:33 p.m. Ms. Har, will you please call the roll?
Alder Carter.
Present.
Present. Chair Donnelly.
Present.
Present. Vice Chair Fletcher.
Present.
Present. Alder Miadzi is excused. Dr. Reese.
Here.
Present. Alder Verveer.
Here.
Present. And Ms. Farley.
Present.
Thank you. Chair, we have quorum.
Excellent. Ms. Hard, do we have, first order of business is approval of minutes from the meeting on October 20th. Committee, what's your pleasure?
Move approval of minutes.
Hear a motion to approve. Is there a second? See a second from Dr. Reese. Any corrections or discussion? Hearing none. Let's see, for our new member, Ms. Farley, the way we've been doing this over video is if anyone has any reservations, they raise their hand and we'll do a roll call vote. And absent that, we will record it as a unanimous consent. So are there any concerns? Hearing none, Alder Carter's motion carries and the minutes are approved. Ms. Haar, is there anyone registered for general public comment?
No, there is not.
Excellent. So that brings us to disclosures and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any such disclosures or recusals? All right, moving right along. Presentation of the, okay, that's not first. Presentation of the consent agenda. So at this time, our representative from the clerk's office will read off a proposed slate of uncontroversial items that we need to vote on, but that are administrative in nature. Ms. Haar, will you please read off the proposed consent agenda, after which members can remove any items that they would like further discussion on, and then we will vote.
The proposed consent agenda for this evening's meeting consists of agenda items number 7 through 14, which are change of agents, items 15 through 20, which are entity reorganizations, item 21, which is a request to extend the license issuance beyond the 180-day limit, and then items 22 and 24 are new licenses, a 21 plus entertainment and a Class B combination to recommend to council to place on file without prejudice.
Thank you very much. Committee members, are there any items you would like separated from that consent agenda? Alder Carter.
Yeah, Jennifer, did you say that the new licenses were part of the consent agenda or separated?
They are listed on the consent agenda at the bottom under a header of recommend to council to place on file without prejudice.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And that's items 22 and 24, but not item 23, which we'll be getting to in the regular course of our meeting. All right, thank you, Alder Carter. Any further questions or requests for separation? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to take the recommended action on all items on the consent agenda. Motion from Mr. Fletcher. Is there a second? Second from Dr. Reese. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing and seeing none. The consent agenda is approved as proposed. So for anyone who's here and interested in one of the items, Jennifer will read the list off one more time. And if your item is on that list, it has been dealt with and you are welcome to go about your business for the evening. Jennifer.
Agenda item number 7, change of agent for Fresh City Market LLC. Item number 8, change of agent for 2089 LLC. Number 9, change of agent for Portillo's Hot Dogs LLC at 7230 West Town Way. Number 10, change of agent for Portillo's Hot Dogs LLC at 4505 East Town Boulevard. Item number 11, change of agent for Quick Trip. Item number 12, change of agent for BSBC LLC. Item number 13, change of agent for Walgreens. Agenda item 14, change of agent for Quantsu Dudes LLC. Item 15, an entity reorganization for Mega Marts LLC. 16, entity reorganization for Ultimate Mart LLC, which is the Pick and Save Express number 183. Agenda item 17, entity reorganization for Ultimate Mart LLC, which is Pick and Save number 131. Agenda item 18, entity reorganization for Ultimate Mart LLC, which is Pick and Save number 178. And 19, entity reorganization for Ultimate Mart LLC, Pick and Save number 179. Item number 20, entity reorganization for Red Lobster Hospitality LLC. Agenda item 21, the request to extend license issuance beyond the 180-day limit for Cali Condor Cantina LLC. And then to recommend to council to place on file without prejudice is items number 22 and 24, a 21 plus entertainment license for Lush Adult Entertainment LLC, doing business as the Southern Skillet Bistro and Ultra Lounge at 7 West Main Street. And then for the same location and entity, a new Class B combination license application.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So once again, if your item was just read off, you are all set and you're done for tonight. Okay, moving on. Item 2, operator license application for Katherine Hernandez. Before we drill into this, Dr. Reese, do you have any questions you would like to ask now of our council?
Yeah, thanks. The first one is, I know we were going to take these to a subgroup meeting for the operator licenses, and just wondering if maybe there just wasn't enough time for that this month, or what the plan is there.
I guess I'd have to direct that to the clerk staff. As far as I know, there wasn't a meeting organized or called. I did not see notice of a meeting. So I don't have an answer. Okay,
no worries. The second, I just wanted to, for the record, share that or renew my objection to hearing about issues on someone's record that are very, very old. I know that we've discussed this before, and I can't remember the outcome, but I know there may be some room for us to look at the statute as to how long we need to have people account for these things. On this meeting tonight, we have someone with things that are over 20 years old. And I know I'm much different than I was 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And so I would just like to know what might be our procedure for looking at that going forward.
Well, I think it's required that they be disclosed in the application. The question is whether how we apply the guidelines that have been developed by the committee. And there has to be, under Chapter 111, there has to be a substantial relationship between the offense and the licensed activity. And that's another reason why someone might have a conviction and might still be able to obtain a license. But we also, our guidelines allow for the fact that someone might be rehabilitated, that for time they were on probation or parole, and that they're now off paper, or that there's been a passage of time that they've lived a good life since then, or at least a life free of convictions. And that can be taken into consideration by the committee, and the decision can be made to grant them a license.
So is it possible that we can take a look at the guidelines and potentially modify what needs to be brought up in this public meeting or accounted for in the public meeting, as opposed to just documented in the packet?
Well, I think the goal of the subcommittee meeting was to avoid having to discuss things in a online meeting with a large number of the public present. It might still be necessary to look at offenses, but yes, there may be some wiggle room for us to take a look at how we deal with certain things in front of the whole board.
Great, thank you. So I will reach out to see if we can look at those in the next
thank you.
weeks.
Thank you, Dr. Reese and Assistant City Attorney Brest. Alder Carter.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I think we ran out of time to schedule that subcommittee because we did a little thing called the budget for the city. So I think that going forward, that's where we'll be discussing this. But the budget took a substantial amount of time, and even a substantial amount of time for the clerk's office, in addition to staff and alders. Thank you.
And on behalf of all of us in the city, thank you, Alder Carter, Alder Revere, for handling all of that on our behalf. Okay, so item 2, Katherine Hernandez. Do we have Katherine here?
There's no one by that name in the list.
All right. Has this applicant appeared on our agenda in the past? I don't believe so, but okay. So our practice in general in these cases is the first time somebody no-shows to refer it to a subsequent ALRC meeting, and if they continue not to, we assume they are not interested unless we've heard otherwise. Committee, what's your pleasure? Mr. Fletcher?
Move referral to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
A motion to refer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alder Carter. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Item 2 is referred to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting. Item 3, operator's license application for Cherokee Mason. And it looks like Cherokee is here with us. Let's see. We've got Lieutenant Marshall from Madison Police Department here. Lieutenant Marshall, could you please let us know why Cherokee's application was flagged?
Good evening. As I said before, I'm Lieutenant Ed Marshall. I am standing in for Captain Harrison Zanders, who is away right now. In the matter of Cherokee Mason, in reviewing your application and during the background process, items of concern came to our attention. The concerns could have been identified as a conflict pertaining to licensing guidelines and bound by statute. Guideline 1, provide the circumstances of the offense substantially relate to the circumstances of the job or licensed activity, and a person who has been convicted of any felony, unless duly pardoned, does not qualify for an operator's license. From section 125.04 sub 5 sub B with Wisconsin statutes. On October 13th of 2016, you were convicted in Dane County on a charge of possession of narcotic drugs, classified as a Class I felony. On guideline 2, provide the circumstances of the offense substantially relate to the circumstances of the job or licensed activity. Any person who has been convicted of or has a current charge pending for one or more offenses within the last 5 years, or for 2 or more offenses arising out of separate incidents within the last 10 years in the following subcategories, does not qualify for an operator's license. In this case, looking at sub A, violent crimes against a person of another, including but not limited to battery, disorderly conduct, sexual assault, injury by negligent use of a vehicle, intimidation of a victim or witness. In July of 2018, you were issued a citation for disorderly conduct for mutual combat in the 600 block of State Street. And in October of 2018, you received a similar citation for the same charge in the 500 block of State Street. Guideline 3, provide the circumstances of the offense substantially relate to the circumstances of the job or license activity. Any person who has been convicted of or has a current charge pending for 2 or more offenses arising out of separate incidents in the last 5 years in the following subcategories does not qualify for an operator's license. Inter alia, alcohol beverage offenses under Wisconsin Statute 125 or Madison General Ordinance Chapter 38, excluding administrative violations. In June of 2019, you were convicted of possession or consuming an open intoxicant on a public street, Ordinance 38.07 sub 8. Guideline 4, provided the circumstances of the offense substantially, relate to the circumstances of the job or license activity. Any person who is a habitual law offender does not qualify for an operator's license. For purposes of these guidelines, a habitual offender includes but is not limited to a person who has committed 3 or more offenses, each a separate incident within the immediately preceding 5 years. From the statute or from the guidelines I've received, the term habitual refers to multiple convictions or pending charges and could include an offender with 2 offenses occurring within a relatively short period of time. The term offender refers to a person with civil violations such as ordinance convictions and or misdemeanor convictions or pending charges. Your background check revealed the 3 aforementioned convictions, 2 for disorderly conduct and 1 for open intoxicants occurred within the last 5 years. Guideline 5, applicants must truthfully and completely fill applications. If the ALRC, subsection B, if the ALRC determines that information was intentionally omitted from an application, the application shall be denied and the applicant shall not be eligible to reapply for an operator license for a period of 1 year from the date of denial of such application. Subsection C, if the ALRC determines that information was omitted from an application due to inadvertent mistake or excusable neglect, the ALRC may allow the applicant to submit a corrected application and recommend granting of the license if the application is otherwise qualified. On your application, you did not list the aforementioned open toxin citation from 2019. It does appear possible that you may have combined multiple convictions onto a single row with a single date, which may be confusing. This is your opportunity to address the committee and dispute the concerns noted.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Marshall. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Fletcher.
Good evening, Cherokee. Could you just speak to a little bit about the, guideline 5 issue with a failure to disclose? I recognize, as the lieutenant mentioned, that you may have kind of combined multiple issues, as it were, into down, but just want to get your sense of that.
So it's been so long since I actually remember my full record. So I looked at CCAP, which did not have my citations. It only had my felony possession of narcotics and a couple of disorderly conducts, that I was actually put in jail for back in 2016, and I was homeless at the time that I got the public possession of alcohol. So I really didn't have anywhere to drink. So we were on the street drinking right after we lost my daughter, hanging out with some friends. And I completely forgot about those. And a lot of my tickets went to collections, which I just paid off $7,000. And that's pretty much why. And I kind of didn't know the full guidelines to apply either. So I really appreciate the lieutenant bringing that up. I did not know about all of those other citations. With that, I apologize.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Of course. Maybe what other questions do you have for the applicant? Alder Carter.
You're on mute, Alder Carter.
Also, your camera's up a little bit high so we can't see your mouth, so we don't necessarily know if you're talking.
I think I'm ready, you guys. Am I off on mute? Yeah. Okay. So Cherokee, can you tell me what type of position are you seeking for your operator license?
So I am looking for a basic server position, to get by through school, to actually pay my financial aid. I am currently attending Madison College for human services, and which they have an opportunity for a certified peer support specialist coming up. And I'm doing that while I am trying to get a job to pay for my schooling so I can complete my pre-petition requirements for vet tech.
Okay, so you have basically what you're saying is you've turned your life around. You're trying to get an education, and you're trying to get some extra money to go forward with that education, correct?
Yes, and I currently also volunteer at Occupy Madison, where I also reside.
Very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Committee, what other questions do you have for the applicant? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Cherokee. So, committee, a motion would be in order, or you may discuss amongst yourselves. What's your pleasure? Dr. Reese.
Move to grant.
A motion to grant from Dr. Reese. Is there a second? We have a motion to grant item 3 from Dr. Reese. Is there a second to this motion?
I will second for discussion purposes.
By all means. Your motion, Dr. Reese, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, so I believe the explanations that Cherokee Mason gave just now, account for what was on the application. I don't believe there was any intentional, anything left off the application intentionally. And as Alder Carter asked and noted in her questions, looks like that there is a lot of attempt here being made to not get in that position again and to be able to financially support themselves.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. Alder Carter.
Thank you. I'm concerned for the 3 years consecutively of just activity that has landed Cherokee into situations, and that actually resulted in fine collections up to $7,000. And making those decisions that ultimately from 2020 and 21 obviously has turned her life around, but those 3 consecutive years do trouble me. I think that I'm fine with granting her a license cautiously. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alder Carter. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would anyone like to call for a roll call vote for this item? Alder Carter.
Roll call.
All right. Ms. Hart, will you please call the roll?
Alder Carter.
Aye.
Aye. Vice Chair Fletcher.
I'll abstain.
Abstain. Alder Miadzi is excused. Dr. Reese.
Aye.
Aye. Alder Verveer.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Farley.
Aye.
Aye. Chair, that's 4 ayes and 1 abstain and 1 excused.
Excellent. So motion carries. Congratulations, Cherokee. And that brings us to item 4, operator's license application for Dontel Jefferson. Is Dontel here with us? Yes, I see that there.
Yes.
Excellent. Lieutenant Marshall, why has this application been flagged?
Good evening, Mr. Jefferson.
Good evening.
In your application and during the background process, items of concern came to our attention. The concern noted, the concerns noted have been identified as conflicts pertaining to the licensing guidelines and bound by statute. For guideline 1, provided the circumstances of the offense substantially relate to the circumstances of the job or licensed activity, any person who has been convicted of any felony, unless duly pardoned, does not qualify for an operator's license. In 1991, you were convicted of delivery of a controlled substance, and in 1993, you were convicted of escape. Under guideline 5, the applicants must truthfully and completely fill out applications. Sub A requires that if an applicant provides false information on an application, the application shall be denied and the applicant shall not be eligible to reapply for an operator's license for a period of 1 year from the date of denial of such application. Sub B states that the LRC determines that information was intentionally omitted from an application. The application shall be denied and the applicant shall not be eligible to reapply for an operator license for a period of 1 year from the date of denial. And item C states that if the LRC determines that the information was omitted from an application due to inadvertence, mistake, or excusable neglect, the LRC may allow the applicant to submit a corrected application and recommend granting of the license if the applicant is otherwise qualified. An MPD background check revealed that in addition to the one conviction that you did report, you did not disclose the following convictions: your 1993 aforementioned charge for escape, as well as a first offense OMBWI in the year 2000, and a conviction for disorderly conduct while armed in 2002. This is your opportunity to address the committee and dispute the concerns noted.
All right, thank you, Lieutenant Marshall. Committee, what questions do you have for Dontel? I'll start with Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Dontel. Could you just kind of speak to the issue on kind of failing to disclose a couple of the items that the lieutenant mentioned?
I just put yes on the application because I kind of figured you all would kind of come up with it either way it went because it was so old. And the last time I applied for a license in Watertown, I had got my license and I asked them about it. And I asked them, hey, would this affect me because I had a criminal background? And they said, no, it wouldn't because it was so old. So I was thinking the same way with this application, but I didn't try to hide anything. I knew it would come up. But I was just thinking because it was so old that it wouldn't affect me.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Alder Carter.
Good evening, Dontel. Can you tell me what position you're trying to get with this license?
Basically, it would give me be able to sell alcohol at my job. Also, I'd be a GSL, basically moving up in ranks. Like I said, I haven't been in any trouble. I've been basically staying out of trouble since God knows when. I don't deny that I got in trouble a long time ago. But as you were all saying about rehabilitating and changing your life, and that's what I've done over these process of years.
So it looks like after 2002, you decided to go down a different path, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Basically what I did, got a job, stayed having a job, just basically staying out of the police side and quit giving the police a hard time in life. Realizing that I was trying to be an adult and became an adult, a man, basically grew up and knew that path that I was taking wasn't going to be the best path for me.
Well, that's wonderful. I just have a couple other questions because it looks like you have, you've been in a couple other states in the United States, Kentucky and Illinois. Yes, but more importantly, Dontel, have you taken any classes, any workshops, anything like that helped you become the person you are today?
Yes, ma'am. I had I don't have all the documents to prove anything, but when I had the OWI, I basically had to take a class to get my license back. So I wasn't going to get my license back until I completed that class. Got on paper, had to take up anger management. Took anger management, passed that class, so anything that would have got me back on the right track and being positive, that's what I did. So yes, I took a few classes and got myself back in order.
So you were willing to do whatever it took to get you on the right path to where you are today, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Committee, what other questions do you have for the applicant? Hearing none, Mr. Fletcher.
I don't have another question, Mr. Chair, but I'd like to move to approve.
Your motion to approve from Mr. Fletcher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alder Carter. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Congratulations, Dontel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hope you have a good rest of your night and happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thanksgiving.
Next up, item 5, operator's license application for Adam Hersig. And Adam appears to be with us. Lieutenant Marshal, why was this application flagged?
Being Mr. Hersig, in viewing your application and during the background process, items of concern came to our attention. The concerns noted have been identified as conflicts pertaining to licensing guidelines and bound by statute. Guideline number 1 is provided that the circumstances of the offense substantially relate to the circumstances of the job or licensed activity. Any person who has been convicted of any felony, unless duly pardoned, does not qualify for an operator's license. On May 14th, 2009, you were convicted in Columbia County for a charge of possession with intent to distribute marijuana, which is a Class I felony. Under guideline number 2, provide the circumstances of the offense substantially relate to the circumstances of the job or licensed activity. Any person who has been convicted of or has a current charge pending for 1 or more offenses within the last 5 years, or for 2 or more offenses arising out of separate incidents within the last 10 years in the following subcategories do not qualify for an operator's license. Subsection A are violent crimes against a person of another, including but not limited to battery, disorderly conduct, sexual assault, injury by negligent use of a vehicle, intimidation of victim or witness. Sub B, crimes involving cooperation or lack thereof with law enforcement officials, including but not limited to resisting or obstructing a police officer, bribery of public officers or employees, eluding police, bail jumping, hit and run, perjury, or acts or threats of terrorism. On November 4, 2020, you were convicted on charges of resisting or obstructing a peace officer, as well as disorderly conduct while armed. This related to multiple combined cases per the CCAP website. And under guideline 3, provide the circumstances of the offense substantially relate to the circumstances of the job or license activity. Any person who has been convicted of or has a current charge pending for 2 or more offenses arising out of separate incidents within the last 5 years in the following categories does not qualify for an operator's license. And this is a single conviction in 2018 for OMBWI first offense. So this is not 2 or more offenses. So this is your opportunity to address the committee and dispute the concerns noted above.
Thank you, Lieutenant Marshal. Committee, what questions do you have for Adam? Alder Verveer.
Thank you, Chairperson Donnelly. The first question I want to ask you, and welcome, by the way, sir, is are you currently under the supervision of the Wisconsin Department of Corrections?
Yes, I am.
Could you give us a little more detail about how long you've been under their supervision and when is that scheduled to be satisfied?
I have been on probation for almost 1.5 years, and I'm scheduled to be released in the springtime, early release for doing everything that I needed to do with my probation officer.
That's good to hear. Do you believe that your agent is supportive of this application? Have you?
Yeah, he is.
Specifically, have you informed them of the application?
Yep, I have informed him. He said that he would write a letter of recommendation if I needed it, or speak to you guys directly. He's in support of me getting this license.
That's wonderful. Well, you read my mind. It is a past practice of our committee that if an applicant is under the Department of Corrections supervision, that we do request a letter from your agent attesting to their knowledge and having no objection by him or her of your application being granted. So that's something that your agent has already agreed to do. And I think it would be exceedingly helpful if since your agent has already offered to do so, if you could get that correspondence submitted to the city clerk's office as soon as practicable. Is that doable?
Yes, it will be. I told him that I would contact him tonight via a text message, but I probably won't be able to get a hold of him until Friday or the next day that he's working.
Yeah, probably next week with the Thanksgiving holiday. It would just be great if I certainly am supportive of your license. It would be great if the motion prevails, that you have that letter submitted to the city clerk's office by the date where your application would be before the Madison Common Council. And as you might know, that's the evening of December 7th.
I will contact him as soon as possible.
That's great. Again, thank you. Thank you, Chairperson.
First, thank you, Alder Revere. Alder Carter.
Adam, can you tell me what, with this license, what job you're looking for?
I'm looking to be a night manager at the grocery store Fresh Madison Market, downtown Madison.
Okay, thank you. And I'm concerned with your activities from 2018 and in last year, 2020. Can you tell me a little bit about the path you're on now?
Well, after the incident that I had in 2020, I realized that alcohol was a problem for me. So I have stopped drinking altogether. I have been sober for almost 2 years now. And in that time, I started working at a grocery store, and I've worked my way up to being a night manager. And to get this license would mean that I could be in the store by myself at night. Yes,
okay, very well. And have you been taking, were there any classes that you had to take?
I have taken like an alcohol class at Journey, where I met with the therapist over the course of like 4 months, where we just talked about ways that I could stay sober and other things that I could do to stay on this path that I'm on now.
Very well, very well. And I wish you the best of luck to stay on this path. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Carter. Woody, what further questions do you have? Not a motion would be in order.
Oh, wait. I move approval of the license. Thank you.
We've got a motion from Alder Carter, and is there a second?
I'll second if we could add, perhaps friendly to the maker of the motion, the condition that a letter of support from the Wisconsin Department of Corrections be submitted to the city clerk's office.
Absolutely.
Excellent. And is that also your second, Alder Revere?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. We've got a motion from Alder Carter, seconded by Alder Revere, to grant, given the condition that the applicant provide a letter from the Department of Corrections before the Common Council meeting when this will be voted on, the date of which is, Ms. Haar?
December 7th. Oh, sorry, Jen.
Thank you, Alder Revere. So, Adam, I need to get that in before the 7th. Is there any further discussion of this motion? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Seeing none, motion carries. Application is granted with conditions. Congratulations, Adam. Next up, item 6, operator's license application for Michelle Roach. Is Michelle here with us?
There's no one by that name in the list.
All right. Mr. Fletcher?
Move to refer to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Motion to refer to the next regularly scheduled ALRC meeting for Mr. Fletcher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alder Carter. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Item 6 is referred. Next.
Mr. Chair, could I, sorry to interject. So just a quick question for you. Our typical practice is, the referring to our next regularly scheduled meeting. And then if it happens a second time, we typically file, the motion without prejudice, placing on file, correct? So I did look back. Katherine Hernandez was on our agenda last month as an application that we previously referred. According to the minutes. So if we are following our standard practice, I would move to reconsider our action taken there so that we can place on file.
All right. For those of you unfamiliar with this bit of procedure, someone who voted in favor of a motion previously may make a motion to reconsider that action effectively during the same meeting. I forget the exact numbers for getting it approved. It's higher than a normal majority. We'll look it up if we need to. As it is now, we have a motion from Mr. Fletcher to reconsider item 2. Is there a second for this motion? Second from Alder Revere. I don't remember whether... Mike, do you remember whether a motion to reconsider is open to discussion or debate? I see a head nod from Ms. Farley, so I'm going to assume you're familiar. Any discussion of this motion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. And item 2 is opened once again. The floor is yours, Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I would move to place on file without prejudice.
We've got a motion to place on file without prejudice. Is there a second for this motion?
Second. Oh, let Alder Revere have that second.
A second from Alder Revere. So placing on file without prejudice means that we will turn down the application, but it will not be held against the applicant in any way, and they can certainly come back and apply again if they would like to. Any discussion of this motion to place on file without prejudice? Hearing none. Is there any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Item 2 is placed on file without prejudice. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Next up, item 23, public hearing, new license for AC Madison Hospitality LLC doing business as Cambria at 5045 East Park Lane. Let's see, who do we have here to speak on this item? Kimberly Albert, who is the agent. Kimberly, can you please tell us about your proposed establishment?
Hello, yes. We are a hotel located on the east side of Madison, and we are seeking a liquor license. We did have a liquor license previously under a different ownership, so the building hasn't changed and the establishment hasn't changed, just the ownership has changed. So we need a new liquor license for the hotel.
That seems fairly straightforward. What hotel was this previously?
Oh, it is Cambria Madison, and it was Cambria Madison as well. It's just a new owner has taken over.
I see. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much. Committee, what questions do you have for the applicant? Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Kimberly, given your familiarity with the prior the prior construct, maybe, are you familiar with whether there would be major changes in terms of how you would operate the license versus the prior ownership?
No, it would stay exactly the same.
No operational changes, no changes in hours, anything of that nature?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. I saw a hand, but it went down. Committee, Alder Carter.
The reason why my hand went down is Mr. Fletcher stole my questions.
Hopefully he can be forgiven. Committee, what other questions do you have for the applicant? Hearing none, a motion would be in order. Mr. Fletcher.
Thanks. Before I maybe make a motion, Mr. Chair, just a quick question for the lieutenant. Is he aware of any concerns from MPD related to kind of this location or anything of that nature?
I am not, although I have not had much time been out of the office for the last several days to research it, but I'm not aware of any striking issues with the address. If you'd like, I can certainly get back maybe with input from the district command from the east side, but nothing really stands out to me at this point.
Okay. And maybe then, Mr. Chair, the final question, or Jennifer, were there any conditions? Yep. Good. I would move to approve them.
We hear a motion to approve. Is there a second? I see a second from Alder Verveer. Any discussion? Hearing none. Any dissent? Hearing none. Motion carries. Congratulations, Kimberly, although I suspect this was a fairly routine matter. And that brings us to item 25, calls for service. Lieutenant Marshall, do you have anything to which you would like to draw the committee's attention?
I do not.
Committee, do you have any questions for Lieutenant Marshall? All right, hearing none, moving on to item 26, licenses issued. Ms. Haar, do you have anything to which you would like to draw the committee's attention?
No, I did ask Jim this afternoon if there was anything he wanted the committee to be aware of, and there was nothing.
Excellent. Committee, do you have any questions for our representative from the clerk's office? Okay, we've now made it to the point where Dr. Reese.
I just wanted to say welcome, Katherine. It's great to have another person on this committee. So we have a little bit more of a break when trying to make quorum.
and also because it's useful to have more breadth of voices. And
that is the most important reason.
And apparently somebody who knows Robert's rules better than I do. Okay, that brings us to the bottom of the agenda. Alder Verveer.
Thank you. I too want to welcome our newest member, Katherine. And apologies if we welcomed Deacon at our last meeting. I don't recall welcoming Deacon at our last meeting on behalf of Associated Students of Madison. So if we didn't do that, certainly welcome. And it's really exciting to have two newly minted members. And I also want to thank Lieutenant Marshall for being here. So thanks, Ed, for being a great backup to Captain Zanders. And I'm sure we'll see you again at these meetings too.
You probably will, anytime, Alder.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I'm happy to move to adjourn unless there's others that wish to speak.
I do see Alder Carter's hand.
Well, I was just going to say happy Thanksgiving and a very happy Thanksgiving if you're not cooking and you're eating at someone else's house.
Excellent. All right. So I heard a motion to adjourn from Alder Verveer. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Fletcher. This one is not debatable. So all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed have the same privilege. Motion carries. ALRC meeting is adjourned at 6:24 p.m. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.